If you're a business owner in Tiawamuchu, you already know that picking a website designer can feel like a pretty big gamble. So in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise and give you a simple, business-first framework so you can make that choice with total confidence. Let's get into it. So, here's the plan. First, we're going to talk about why this whole process feels so darn risky in the first place. Then we'll completely reframe what a designer's real job actually is. After that, it's all practical stuff. We'll cover the 5 green flags you want to see, the 4 red flags you need to avoid, and we'll wrap it all up with a dead simple checklist you can use before you sign anything.
Okay, let's start right there with that feeling of uncertainty. You've probably talked to a few designers, right? And everyone sounds great, their past work looks really sharp, but you're still left thinking, how do I really know who's the right fit for my business?
Look, if you're nodding along right now, trust me, you are not alone. It's a big chunk of your marketing budget, and let's be honest, the path from spending that money to actually getting more customers can feel, well, super foggy. So yeah, you're right to feel the pressure.
This right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the risk. See, the biggest danger isn't a website that crashes or looks terrible. No, the real danger is a site that looks perfectly fine, but does absolutely nothing for your business. It just sits there, quietly failing, and you might not even notice for months.
Just think about it for a second. Your website is your digital storefront. It's where potential customers decide in a heartbeat whether they trust you or not. A bad website doesn't just look a bit off, it actively erodes that trust, costs you inquiries, and the worst part, 6 months down the line, you're just left wondering why nothing changed.
And that leads us to a really important shift in mindset. You see, to pick the right designer, you first have to know what their real job is. And here's a little spoiler, it's probably not what you think.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. The common belief is that a designer's job is to make a website look pretty. But the reality? A great designer's job is to build a tool that gets you inquiries. Simple as that. The looks are important for sure, but they have to serve that one single goal. They aren't the goal itself. So, what does that mean in practice? It means they're obsessed with clarity. Can someone land on your site and know what you do in less than 5 seconds? Does the site make them feel safe and confident? And most importantly, does it make it super easy for them to take that next step and actually contact you? That's the real work.
Let this one sink in for a minute. Every single choice a designer makes, the layout, the color of a button, the size of the font, it should all be about helping your potential customer make a decision. And that decision is to choose you. It's all strategy, not just art.
Okay, so you've got this new mindset. Design is about getting business, not just looking good. So now let's get practical. How do you actually spot a designer who gets it? Well, here are 5 big green flags to look for when you're talking to them.
We're going to break each of these down, from how they talk about your customers to what happens after your site goes live. Just think of this as your personal toolkit for when you're interviewing designers for your Tiawamutu business. This one is huge. Pay really close attention to the questions they ask you. A great designer wants to know everything about your ideal customer. What are their biggest problems? What are they worried about? If the first conversation is all about their favorite fonts and cool design trends, that's a bit of a warning sign.
You know, a good design is based on logic, not just a good feeling. Your designer should be able to explain their plan in plain English. Something like, we're putting the contact button here because it's the natural next step for someone who has read this section. If their answers are all fuzzy or full of text speak, they might not have a clear strategy.
Now, for a local business, this is absolutely critical. A designer who knows the Waikato area understands that building trust here is different. They'll know to include local trust signals, clear address info, local landmarks, the right kind of language that make people in our community feel confident and, as a bonus, really helps your local search rank.
Let's be really clear here. Mobile isn't just another thing to check off the list. It's everything. It's the main way your local customers are going to find you and decide whether to call you. A designer who talks about the mobile version as an afterthought just doesn't get how people behave anymore. They should be thinking about how it looks on a phone from day one.
Ah, this one tells you everything. This is the difference between hiring a vendor and finding a partner. A great designer is invested in whether the website actually works. They'll ask about tracking calls and talk about what happens next. For them, the day the site goes live isn't the end of the project, it's the beginning of proving it works.
Okay, so we know what good looks like. Now, let's flip the coin, because it's just as important to spot the warning signs, the red flags that tell you a project might be heading for trouble.
I can almost guarantee you will hear this phrase.
And on the surface, it sounds totally fine, right? But honestly, it's one of the most dangerous, empty phrases in web design.
And here's why it's a problem. My idea of professional and your idea of professional could be completely different. It's just an opinion. So you have to push for clarity. Ask them, okay, what will this design do that makes it professional? Will it make us seem more trustworthy? Will it make our services easier to understand? Always tie it back to a real business outcome.
Oh man, this is another classic red flag, and it is a massive one. If a designer ever suggests that search engine optimization is just something you can tack on at the end, you need to be very, very careful.
The truth is, good SEO is baked right into the website from the very beginning. It's in the structure of the pages, the words you use in the headlines, how fast the site loads. All of that stuff is part of the core recipe. You can't just sprinkle it on at the end like salt and expect it to work. It has to be in the mix from the start.
And here are 2 more quick ones to watch out for. First, if a designer seems more excited about being creative and artistic than being clear and easy to understand, they're probably more focused on their portfolio than on your results. And second, if they can't walk you through their step-by-step plan for the project, you might be signing up for a whole lot of confusion and chaos.
Okay, we have covered a lot. The right mindset, the green flags to look for, the red flags to avoid. So now let's bring it all home and boil it down into a final, simple checklist you can use right before you make your decision.
Before you sign that contract, just take a breath, take a moment to run through these last few questions. This is your final gut check. It's the last step to make sure you're making this call with total clarity. First, ask yourself, do I actually understand how this new website is supposed to get me more calls or emails? Second, could I explain the basic layout to someone else in my own simple words? Third, does the whole thing feel clear, or does it just feel clever? And finally, this is the big one. If this wasn't your business and you landed on this site as a customer, would you be convinced enough to get in touch? If the answer to any of those is no or even a maybe, it's worth pausing.
And we'll just end with this thought. The whole point of your website is to make a potential customer feel more certain, more confident in their decision to hire you. The process of building that website should feel the same way. The right designer brings you clarity, and that's how you know you're not just gambling, you're making a smart investment in your business.